Isla from Feld. So this is one of the Feld games that I have heard about it. I heard it's pretty light, so I didn't really think of trying it yet. This is a review copy from Ravensburger. So thank you Ravensburger for review copy. So how does the game work? Essentially, you are trying to manage your player tableau, which will give you certain cards, which will give you certain abilities that will help you in the game. So you'll be following. Each round will have 4 phases. Phase A is where right at the beginning you'll be drawing cards, depending on the number of cards you have. So usually you'll be drawing at least 3 cards, then be placing them face down on your player tableau. Then when we do phase A, you review the first card that you place here, and you need to slot them into one of these slots here. Usually you only have 3 slots, but I had an ability where I can put in an extra slot. So what happens when you put it here is that the powers that is remaining, is visible here, will become your power for your player tableau. So for example, all these 3 powers I now have active in my player tableau. So that's phase A. In the first 3 rounds, you'll be putting them in empty slots. Later on, you definitely need to cover one of these slots. So it kind of helps to ensure that you are always changing your strategies as you play the game. Now when you come to phase B, each of these cards have 3 different functionalities. So A is just to give you the power. The phase B, you look at this part of the card, it gives you the cube as a resource. So you just get one of these cubes as a resource. Sometimes the power gives you certain abilities to give you when you get the cubes. For example, like in Rowan's one, when he gets the B cube, he gets 2 points as well. When you do phase C, you take your people and your the explorers, and you put them onto the board. Now usually when you put them onto a empty slot, for example like here, or with someone else, you need to pay the number of cubes, 2 cubes of the same color. So for example, you want to put this here, and you put 2 yellow cubes. If I want to put this here as well, I can coexist together with this explorer, and you pay 2 white cubes. There are certain abilities that will allow you to place less cubes. For example, like Rowan's card here. If you put it in a rope area, you put 1 less cube. There's also certain abilities like John's one, the green cube can be any color cube that you want. So that's phase C. Initially we start with 5 people, 5 explorers. Later on you'll be moving the cubes, and you're moving your people from the board to another location. Lastly, phase D is where you look at this right side of the card. Essentially you're bumping up the purple tokens on these tracks. So what happens is after you bump them, you will get 1 point for each of that particular token that you have in your area. So when your explorers are capturing when you surround a particular location, for example, if blue manages to put 1 explorer here, right, you have surrounded Dodo, they have captured the Dodo. The blue player will take this token into their player area. They will also score points equals to the number written on the board, which is actually 3, which is also represented by the 3 explorers that they had. So you put this token here. Then if the blue player manages to bump this up by 1, he'll score 1 point for each of the Dodo tokens that they had here in the player area. Now this player board also tells you the score. You have the score track around it. It also determines when the game ends. So at the end of each round, you check. Depending on the player, you look at a number here. This will tell you if the number of all the purple tokens equals to or higher than this number here, then the game will end. That will be the final round. And you do final game scoring, which is you check if you have a complete set of 5 different animals, right? You score 10 points. The big animal tiles are given to us randomly at the start of the game, and they count for 2 of it. So this counts as 2 dodos, for example. For each 2 resources, you also get 1 point each. And you also look at this for final scoring. So for each it looks like chinchilla for us. For each chinchilla token that you have, you score 2 points. For each dodo bird you have, you score 2 points. For each frog, 2 points. Mayfly 2 points, and the rat you get 1 point. So that's La Isla. For me it is a very light game. Initially it's quite easy to pick up, but as the game progresses it gets a bit more interesting when the game progresses, because you start to have a limitation of the number of spaces you have for powers. You start to you see what other players are. You try to strategize how I can swoop in to steal the tokens from them. You also start to realize what players are bumping up on this track, and maybe you want to cash in as well by capturing the right animal type. So it's been quite interesting for me. I'll now interview Jonathan and Rowan. So what do you think?
Start with Rowan.
Okay, start with Rowan.
So I really like this game for its being very light and quick. I did think visually it was a little bit difficult. The board is a little bit difficult to process, especially this part of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of like numbers and colors and a lot of things are just like jumping out.
Yeah, exactly. But I did like some of the mechanics, especially when you're drawing the 3 cards at the beginning of every round. Just sort of choosing where you're going to put everything has some interesting decisions involved, but it ends up being pretty quick. It still is very simple, so you don't have a huge problem with analysis paralysis in this game. In terms of its theme, I thought its theme didn't perhaps match the experience we were having terribly well. But overall, it's a nice light game.
John?
So I didn't love it. I think a lot of the strategic elements to it are very dependent on which cards you get at a certain point in time. And it's nice that you have the limited number of cards because they all have 3 options, and if you had more than that, it would be incredibly complicated. I think the one time Eric ended up with a hand of 5 cards because of some of the other cards he got. His turn took like twice as long as everybody else's.
Yeah, but it wasn't very helpful either. I mean, if I had so much cards, it depends on what you drew from, and there's quite a lot of cards to draw from. So,
So I think, and because there are so many different powers and that sort of stuff, you can't really plan to have a particular strategy because it's really dependent on what you get. Like, you can hope to get something that'll give you a cube to move to this particular space, but if you just don't draw the right cards for it, that's life. So yeah, it felt, with the amount of interesting locations and complications on the board and things, that I ought to be able to plan a bigger strategy, and I really felt like I was reacting turn to turn to what I drew rather than doing anything.
So this is one of Stefan Feld has quite a lot of games actually. Like Trajan, some of the he has a wide range from very heavy games, where requires a lot of thinking, a lot of calculation, a lot of points, to the lighter games. Where this will be considered one of his lighter games. In terms of randomness that Stefan Feld has, this is not as random as some of his other games. He has some games that's really random. A lot of it's a very tactical game, but some people like the different ranges that he has. Stefan Feld is also known for point salad, as in he has a lot of games that just get different ways of scoring points. But for this wise, yes, you can still tell that there's different ways of scoring points, and you're trying your best to work with the card as you can. So for me, it's not one of my favorite Felds. I still think that Castles of Burgundy or even Borobor and Trajan are still better than La Isla. But La Isla is pretty light. I think in terms of the randomness, it's not as random as Rialto to me. This is probably a bit better than Rialto, but it's still I think Feld is still one of my best favorite designers out there. So if you like Stefan Feld, do give this a try. So this is Last Isla. Thank you for watching.